Started. Brill. Thanks to everyone for attending this virtual meeting for the Overview and Scrutiny Task Group on Sustainable Public Transport on Thursday the 7th of January 2021. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Councillor Kim Snape and I'm the chair of the committee. Please note this is a Teams meeting. It's been recorded and the video stream will also be uploaded to YouTube after the meeting. For each item, I'll invite members to use the raise hand function on your iPad to make any comments. This is to ensure that each member has the opportunity to speak and that they're not speaking over each other. Please mute your microphone and video feed when you're not speaking, and if the technology fails, then I'll adjourn the meeting for a few minutes to try and resolve the issues. If this is not possible, a new date and time will be arranged. Please can I ask that all members confirm they can hear and speak before the meeting begins, and I'll call out each member. So we've got Julia Berry. Don't think Julia's on the call. Martin Boardman. No.
We're not doing very well.
Val Corns, I've seen Val.
I'm here.
Hooray.
I'm here.
Mark Clifford.
Present, Chair.
Gordon France.
I'm here, Chair.
Tommy Gray.
Here, Chair.
Yvonne Hargreaves.
Here, Chair.
Laura Lennox.
Here, Chair.
June Molyneux.
Good evening, Chair.
Brilliant. And welcome to Tracy from Dial-A-Ride and Owen and Rebecca from Northern Trains. Right, so we'll go on to apologies. Have we got any apologies for absence?
There's no apologies, Chair.
Okey-doke. So next item, minutes of the last meeting, Thursday the 3rd of December. Are there any issues to raise on the accuracy of the minutes? No, I'll take that as a no.
Happy
then.
to move
Silence.
those, Chair, yeah.
So June
To second them, Chair.
Seconded. Seconded, Gordon.
So we've got that. So we'll note that the minutes are approved. Item 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of the responsibility to declare a pecuniary interest in respect to matters in the agenda. As this is a virtual meeting, if a member has a pecuniary interest, they're requested to leave the call completely rather than just mute the microphone. The member can then rejoin the call following the completion of the item in question. Are there any declarations of interest? No, so that was fine. So we'll go on to the next one. So we've got item 3, which is a verbal presentation by Dial-A-Ride. So Tracy Keating, the manager at Central Lancashire Dial-A-Ride, is going to provide us with a verbal update. And then we've also arranged with Tracy that members can ask questions throughout the presentation. So if there are any questions, just raise the hand and we'll pick them up as we go along, if that's okay, Tracy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Fab, that's brilliant. So over to you. Thanks.
Okay, well, I'll obviously just tell you about ourselves, obviously. We're a community transport, which is a door-to-door service, and we started in around about 1982. We're a small charity of 6 employees. That's 2 in the office and 4 drivers. We have 6 minibuses, but only 3 are used daily. We provide transport for people who can't access public transport, and that's either because there isn't transport in their area, there's no buses, or that they can't walk the distance to a bus stop, and also that they don't have access to their own vehicle. We're more like an accessible bus service, but we are door to door and the drivers must assist people on and off the bus. We are only in certain areas on certain days and certain times, and all journeys have to be booked in advance, at least 24 to 48 hours. We can't make on the day bookings due to the permit that we operate under, and all users must be members. Now, there is absolutely no age limit to people who can use us, although a lot of people do think you have to be elderly to use Dial-A-Ride or you have to be disabled. You don't, you just don't be able to have to access transport in any other public transport. The hours operation are Monday to Friday, approximately 8:30 to 4:30. And on a Saturday, we do out of town trips for different groups of people. We also provide transport for nursing homes and community groups for them to be able to take people out for the day or to access things like Chorley Little Theatre or the cinema and things like that. Obviously, this is all before COVID. And all our drivers have to be MIDAS trained, which is Minibus Drivers Awareness Scheme, and they all must be DBS'd. We get our funding, part of our funding, from a contract with Lancashire County Council, which has greatly been reduced this year for the next 3 to 5 years by 30%. But we were lucky to be able to speak to Chorley Council and South Ribble Borough Council, and they're giving us a small amount of money for hopefully for the next 3 years. It doesn't cover all the costs, but we are used to making cutbacks to the service and working at a minimum. We are looking at further funding from other sources, for example, the big lottery and awards for all, or any funding pots that people may know of that we can apply for, especially for the replacement of our old minibuses to maybe become more environmentally friendly. Sorry, 1 minute, I have just skipped a page. Before COVID, we were sort of fulfilling a total of about 30,500 single passenger trips per year. That's 29,000 on the dial ride and 1,500 on community cars, which is approximately 2,500 a month. It is now, after COVID, down to 750 a month. Passenger numbers had crept up before December to about 30% back of passengers coming back to us after COVID. But since Monday's announcement, we're now back down to about 10 to 15%. To adhere to the COVID regulations, the number of people we can now get on the minibus is reduced to 4 or 5, whereas we used to be able to get 12 to 14. Now, the community car service, we also run the community car service, which is a volunteer car scheme where volunteers use their own cars to take passengers to medical appointments, hairdressers and shopping when it's not economical for a minibus to go out for them. We have 6 volunteers at present, 1 in Coppell, 1 in Chorley, 2 in Eccleston, 1 in Brinskull and 1 in Charnock Richard. We do find it difficult to actually find volunteers. We have tried in the past sort of to recruit volunteers by working with Chorley Borough Council and CVS, but unfortunately it is hard to get people. The volunteers, the volunteer car scheme drivers, sorry, I've lost my page, sorry. They don't have to be licensed. They don't get any special licenses because they aren't taking fares. They're just refunded the 40 or 45 pence per mile set out by HMRC. They are all DBS'd and the driving is assessed, as well as we give them training on how to deal with passengers. The passenger pays for the 40 pence per mile that they're in the car, and the dial ride refunds the dead mileage. We also pay for the DBS training, extra insurance to cover excess and bonuses, and public liability. At present, we do not get any funding to run the car service, but we did approach Eccleston Parish Council last year, and they agreed to give us some money to run a car scheme for them, but it is just for the people of Eccleston. As I said, volunteers are very hard to come by, and when we did try to set up the Eccleston one, we sent out 2,000 leaflets, but unfortunately we only got 2 responses. But the 6 volunteers that we do have are quite happy to work all over the Chorley Borough Council area, so it's fine. It just costs us more money to send somebody who lives in Chorley to somebody who's going out in Eccleston and just going up the road. So that's why we like to try and get volunteers from each village. And also, just going to say, whilst we do usually manage to fulfil the transport requests we get, as long as people can be flexible about the days and times that they go, we do have capacity to provide more if there's funding available, and also if we could work with organisations who may know where there is a specific need. And also we are affected a little bit by the fact that people are driving the cars for a lot longer now, so it's taking them getting to quite a further age down the line before they actually do start to need us. But yeah, that's it basically, unless you want to ask me some questions of things that I might have forgotten to mention.
No, that's really interesting. Thank you. I'll open it up for any questions. Are there any questions anybody wants to ask? I've got Alison.
Hello. I just wondered if you could tell me how much a minibus costs and what is it run by? Is it diesel?
It is run by diesel, yeah. As far as a new minibus is concerned, I'm not entirely sure because we've not been able to buy a new one for a long time. But between 48 to 60,000 for a new minibus. That's because obviously we have all our vehicles are accessible. We can't have any vehicles that wouldn't be able to get wheelchairs on or that haven't got low floors or steps for people to get on. So obviously they have to be modified. So anywhere between about 48 to 60,000, depending on what you got.
Thank you.
A diesel.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. We've got Laura.
Hello, thank you. I just wondered, since you mentioned Eccleston Parish Council having given you some money, I wondered if you'd approached other parish councils as well.
Yeah, we approached Whittle Parish Council, but they weren't really interested.
They're on the glorious 125 bus route though, so they're not going to be.
But we do get a lot of people who use us from Clayton and Whittle on the Dial-A-Ride bus because they can't get on the bus, so we do have people that want to. No, we really were about to try and organise a meeting and invite all parish councillors and things to come and meet us and have a chat about it, but now COVID hit. So because the car scheme to Chorley, for us running it, is quite new. We've only had it for about a couple of years. It used to be run by Preston before that, and then it came to us. So yes, we haven't, apart from Whittle, no, we haven't. Oh, I spoke to Bretherton once as well, but they wanted to run it themselves, and it's not really something that you can do because you need the backup of a company to be able to have the proper insurances and checks, things like that. So, but it is something we would look at, definitely.
Thank you.
I've got Gordon. Oh, you're on mute.
It's the best way for him.
You're right. I'm Councillor Gordon France Tracy. I represent Pennine, which is Heapy Brinskull. I would have thought that Withnell, I sit on Withnell Parish Council and Heapy Parish Council. I would have thought both of them are particularly in Heapy, because there's part of Heapy Ward round the Heapy Chase area, which isn't serviced by a bus route. And the other thing I was going to ask, we had a presentation by Stagecoach at the last meeting, and they were saying their vehicles, the lifetime of a new bus is about 15 years. That's what they're geared for. And I just wonder whether the lifetime of your fleet was something similar.
Yeah, I mean, when we had an SLA with a service level agreement with Lancs County Council years ago, they wouldn't let us have anything over 8 years old, but we don't have that now. So yes, our buses go for as long as they are serviceable, and we do have them serviced and checked every 10 weeks, to make sure they're roadworthy, etc. Our youngest bus is a 2012, and our oldest bus is a 2008. So they sort of range between there. But yeah,
that sounds.
Sorry, I was going to say, as far as Heapy and Withnell Council, Parish Council, we'd love to arrange something to meet and have a chat with things. That'd be brilliant.
I would think the thing to do, Tracy, would be to approach the clerks, and they're quite. Both councils I've found are quite open to presentations, and that might just be a way through. They've not vast amount of money to help, but but anything's welcome in these strange times, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
June, we've got June.
Hi. I'm Borough Councillor for Adlington Anderton, and I sit on Adlington Town Council, and I'm sure it's something that if you contacted the council that they would look at, because even though we are on the notorious 125 route, it's only a fraction of the village, and if you live up Park Road, places like that, you can't get the access. We really need them within the village.
Yeah, I mean,
so something similar to with Eccleston. Would be ideal for us in a way.
Yeah. The thing is, the car scheme really is normally for places we don't send the bus. And the minibus does come to Adlington.
Oh, yes.
But to be honest with you, at the moment, we only have 2 passengers using us. I think what I need to see if the parish councils or councils can get something about us in the magazines or on notice boards,
We do have a regular newsletter, and we're always looking for things to go in it.
Yeah.
So if you can send information to the clerk.
Yeah, so that's Adlington.
Adlington Town Council. Yeah. And I was sure Anderton Parish they only have 1 newsletter a year, but it might be worth trying to get something in it.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment we do only go into Adlington once a week on a Friday, but we did used to go on a Tuesday.
Yeah, well, you used to.
People didn't use us, so we had to use it for something else,
We used to use the minibus for the friends group. We were just starting off the Friends Together group.
On Thursdays,
On the Thursdays, and we were just building it up and getting a few more people coming, and using the bus, and then COVID hit, so we've had to stop, so.
Yeah, but yeah.
So the need is still there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, we've got Mark Clifford.
Hi, Tracy. I'm the Borough Councillor for the Clayton and Whittle ward. You mentioned you'd contacted Whittle. However, the parish councils are separate. So I'm also the chair of Clayton Woods Parish Council. We do have a grant scheme. We'd be delighted to look at an application from yourselves because Clayton Woods is a huge area, and especially once you start getting over to the Wigan Road sort of side where the Kewarden residential park is, there is no bus route actually out that way at the moment. So please contact Clayton Woods Parish Council.
Yep, I will do. Thank you.
Thanks.
I've got Yvonne.
Hi, Tracy. I'm councillor for the north in Clayton Woods, so Clayton Brook, which, as you know, has quite a lot of elderly people, and also Briery Court. I don't know if you actually operate around there, but obviously, as Councillor Clift just said, they've got all the money. The parish council would be the parish council that would be looking to fund or assist in any way. I'm also a parish councillor for Horton, which, as you know, is on the outskirts of Chorley going out. 125 doesn't go up there. And have you had any inquiries from there, from Horton?
We do. In the minibus, we do take 3 people from Horton to Sainsbury's on a Friday. We are, so we are in the Horton area. Again, probably it would be the Friday because that's the day we're around. Thursday. Clayton Woods and Clayton Brook, and we used to take quite a few people from Briery Court shopping into Chorley itself, but again, I think people did die, and not had any more refreshing. So I think it is a question of trying to get ourselves out there, really, and it's better. It's more word of mouth because I have paid for an advert to go in the local Life. For a whole 6 months or a year, I can't remember what it was, and we didn't have any comeback from it at all, no requests for transport at all.
Right.
The way we sort of seem to find we get requests is either by somebody seeing the bus in the street, thinking us to say, what are you? Or people like yourselves, or Age Concern, that have you tried Dial-A-Ride? It is more or less, we're sort of, people don't seem to know too much about us, or they think they can only use it if they are elderly or disabled. I think apart from the car scheme area, because obviously the minibus can fit more people in a car, can only take 1 to 2 people, but the minibus, when it's normal, we can take sort of 10, 12, 14 people on the area. We just need to get ourselves known about.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just come in on the back of that, Kim? I mean, perhaps a mail shot in a particular area that you know is quite isolated.
Yeah.
Might be more effective than an advert in
Yeah.
a magazine or something like that. You know, if you know there's an estate or an area that isn't well served.
Yeah. I think
with a bus, perhaps.
What we could do is, if people like yourselves and that know areas that are not well served, to contact us and let us know where they are. Because I mean, we did do Charnock Richard when the buses were meant to be stopping. I know they didn't, but when the buses were meant to be stopping, going through Charnock Richard, we did a complete like leaflet drop. So we got all these leaflets printed out and dropped all these leaflets. And again, we didn't get any response from it. But I think that's because they didn't take the buses off. But yeah, if anybody knows of anywhere they think that we can target, you know, we'd be happy to do so.
Fantastic. Val?
The lower end of Adlington, up Park Road.
Definitely,
Definitely. Because every time we go in that area, they say about no buses. Sorry, Val.
It's not a problem. Yes, just a point. I'm Borough Councillor for Eccleston, and I just wondered, are they the same people who are contacting you from Eccleston, or are these sort of not statistics that you will be able to present? And how often are you having to come out from Chorley to Eccleston to collect people?
Well, there's two things there. We do Eccleston with the minibus, and that's taking people to Chorley shopping, and we come out to Eccleston once a week on a Tuesday. They come down to the market or to Morrison's, which is absolutely fine. It's a set route, and you know it's what we've got set up. With the car scheme, it is the same people really that phone up for appointments, and also they used to go meet at a club on I think it was a Wednesday. Is it Wednesday afternoon? And we did have one of the volunteer drivers in Eccleston doing that run, taking 3 people, then going back for 3 more people. But yeah, I probably, because there's only him, because the other one's isolating now, you probably do end up, say, 60% sending somebody from out of the area if it's a car scheme one, and obviously the other 40% are done by the 2 that are local.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Julia, have you got a question? I think you're on mute.
I've not put my hand up. Sorry, it's an accident. Sorry.
Oh, right, no worries.
Sorry.
So, are there any other comments or questions or anything people want to add? I presume Julia's just put her hand up again by mistake.
All right.
No worries. No, that's brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that, Tracy. So, have we got? Oh, Ruth's got a hand up.
Hiya, yeah, I was just wondering, we do have a meeting that Council France chairs actually called Chorley Liaison that it might be worth Dial a Ride coming along to, because we do have representatives from all the parish councils that come to that meeting. So that might
that's true.
Future item for Chorley Liaison, maybe. I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah, and it's one evening.
An excellent one, Ruth.
Rather than 20 odd evenings. We've got Tommy Gray.
Yeah, I'm the councillor for Exton North. What I was worrying about, the hospital problem, what we have at Exton North. Well, it may be the same at the south as well, I don't know. But a lot of people can't get to the hospital because the 109 bus, it turns right at the Bay Horse and it goes through Buckshaw. There's no other bus goes up Exton Lane. And I was wondering whether you could get in touch with Exton Parish Council and see if they could help you out with some funds, and they could put it in the magazine that they put out about 3 times a year. I know they have plenty of money, Exton Parish Council, so I don't know why they should refuse you. I'm not on the Parish Council, so, you know, but if you could do something there, they may help you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I will definitely contact them, but I do know as well in Exton, isn't there a church group that volunteers and takes people to hospital and doctors?
There was, but I don't know whether it's still going yet or not.
Okay.
Yeah. I
But
think the person who's organised that lives at Eccleston, I think. I don't know.
Right, okay. But yeah, no, I'll definitely contact them because, again, the hospital appointments we don't tend to do on the minibuses simply because we've got sort of routes with them and you can't take people to specific timed appointments. That is why cars are such brilliant things for going to medical appointments and hospital. So
yeah, that'd be fine, a car. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely contact them.
Yeah, might be worth a try anyway.
Thank you.
Right.
Any further comments or anything?
Sorry, I do have my hand up this time now, Kim.
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, I just want to ask a question about COVID recovery, really, and the important part community transport can play in getting things back happening, really, particularly for older and vulnerable groups, especially with the appointment system now with vaccines. And I just think there's an opportunity to just scope out what work can be done, really, to get vulnerable groups mobile again. And just being vulnerable groups, I mean population at risk, and particularly the older population. And I just wondered whether or not you were talking to the transport authorities really about perhaps expanding or looking at some way of filling the gap in services because of the seismic effect COVID's had on public transport, and obviously people aren't generally using the buses and trains to any degree as they were previously. I just wondered if you've got any aspirations in that area. Yeah,
I mean, we do deal with a lot of groups, vulnerable groups. It's just that at the moment they themselves have taken themselves back and they're not going out. I mean, we were taking a group of vulnerable adults from Leyland to Accrington all the way up to December. And on Monday they were still going to go, but then on 8 o'clock when they got the announcement about staying at home and to shield again, of course they've stopped going. But yeah, I mean, it certainly is something that we would, look at. It's just when COVID, before COVID happened, we were quite busy ourselves anyway, and I think those people may come back. Places like Chorley Adult Day Services and Genesis Dementia Care, they used us sort of on a daily basis to get people in and out, and it has obviously stopped now at the moment. But obviously, I need to keep the spaces open for when they do come back. But like I say, we'd never say never. If we were approached to help out in this way, then we'd certainly look at it.
Fab, that's great. Lovely. Any further comments or anything? No. Super. No, thank you very much for that, Tracy. And so we've got your contact details, have we, and everything. So if there's any,
I think Matthew's got my email. So yeah, if anybody wants to email me anything, that'd be brilliant. Yeah.
Brilliant. No, I'm sure we'll get in touch, and if there's anything further that people want to send through or any suggestions, definitely vouch for the bottom end of Adlington.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing, like you say, it is just that we're unknown because we are in Adlington. Unfortunately, we're in lots of places, but I just don't think people know about us. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, super. Okay. No worries. Well, thank you very much for that, and we appreciate you coming, and hopefully we can stay in touch on stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. So shall I go now? Is that?
Yeah, that's great. If you have to, brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Tracy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Right, so we're now at the end of the discussion on that item. So we're happy to note that report. Yep, we'll take the silences. Yep. So we'll go on to item 4, presentation by Owen Roberts, and I think it's Rebecca from Northern Trains. And I think we've got any questions or anything members want to ask. If we could save those for the end of the presentation, that would be great. So over to yourselves. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, and good evening, councillors. I have some presentation slides which I'm going to try and share with you now. So I'll share my screen if that's possible. Can you see the slides?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes.
Yeah, fine with that.
You
Thank
can
you.
see them. Great. Okay. Right. Excellent. Okay. I shall put them on. Okay. Right. We'll start from the beginning. Yeah. Good evening, councillors. My name's Owen Roberts. I'm the stakeholder manager for Northern Trains. And with me, I'm not sure if she introduced herself at the start, is Rebecca Stiles, who's the regional community and sustainability manager for Northern. So just to run you through the agenda, what I'm going to cover this evening, a little bit about the challenges and the successes we're currently undertaking due to COVID, a little bit about what we're doing to keep customers and staff safe, the operational and customer impacts of COVID, the resourcing challenges which have resulted from COVID, a little bit about the current performance on the lines of route through Chorley, a little bit about the looking back over the last couple of years at the infrastructure investment which has gone in the main corridor through Chorley, a little bit about our rolling stock and the improvements we've made there over the last 18 months or so, and then a slide on customer marketing, and then your opportunity to ask me any questions. So without any further ado, I think this was probably the natural point to start really in terms of COVID. It's been a massive challenge for the business over the past the past 10 months or so. We've needed to mobilise quickly and continually. We've always been responding to new information. We're a massive business. We run services from Nottingham and Stoke-on-Trent in the south, right the way up to Carlisle, and a little place called Chat Hill, which is on the Scottish border in the northeast. A massive area to cover, a lot of different tiers to cover over the period of COVID. So we've been issuing different parts of travel advice in different parts of our network. We've done a lot of engagement as well with the trade unions and something called the Rail Industry Coronavirus Forum, which meets so we have the guidance which is published by the government, and then the Rail Industry Coronavirus Forum meets to decide the strategy based on that guidance. Industry alignment, we've been done a lot of work with other train operating companies within the north of England and with Network Rail to ensure alignment in our messages. We've needed to keep all our staff, all our people updated. We're a business of about 6,500 staff, so keeping everyone up to date on what's happening and with the latest guidance has been very important. We've also need to manage resumption of our training programs. So when at the onset of COVID in March, all of our training ceased, and training's really, really important for us because we have people leaving the business, we have people retiring from the business. On the train crew side, the drivers, training a driver it takes a number of months. It's not a quick process, unfortunately. So we're unable to train any drivers or conductors right the way through from March through till October. And even when training resumed in October, it's quite a slow process because we have to go into bubbles, put them into bubbles with an instructor. It's not as quick a process as usual, which has been a major challenge for us going forward. We need to come up with and it's important as well to acknowledge the amount of customers travelling on the network. So quiet in the first lockdown, and then it's been increasing over the summer, and then we've had the dip again as we've come into winter. What with the lockdown in November, and then obviously moving into a new lockdown period now. And while this has all been going on, the world has carried on. Unfortunately, we've still had incidents of trespass on our network, incidents of crime, and also sadly suicides as well. So in the last railway period, the number of suicides sadly increased on the same period last year. So we had 10 in our region, which is the northwest and central region of Network Rail, compared to 5 last year, which is very sad, obviously. So a little bit about what we've done to keep our customers and staff safe. We've been involved in that message. We had an essential travel and key worker only message, which ran through the first lockdown from March until May. We've amended our station signage to so one-way systems. You can see in the staff-only areas. There's some pictures there, also some reminders for people to stand apart on station platforms. We've had on-train barriers as well to keep our staff, to keep our conductors safe as they carry out essential duties and move throughout the train. And we've had a reassurance campaign which has been running in recent months to emphasise, if you have to travel, then please do travel with confidence. But bear in mind to check the latest guidance. Please buy your tickets in advance. Very importantly, wear a face covering. Keep your distance from other passengers, and and wash your hands before and after journeys begin, starts and ends. In terms of the products that we've been using a chemical called Zuno to clean our trains on a regular basis, which is an antiviral solution which provides a long-lasting protection on surfaces. All of our stations are now clean for 21% longer than before the pandemic. And for station facilities alone, we've increased our annual spend by £1.3 million. So there's a lot been going on to ensure safety for both our customers and our staff. There's been quite a significant operational impact to the business. So these are the figures across the whole of the northern business. So pre-COVID, 2,854 daily services. When we went into the first lockdown in March, we reduced that number down to 1,298. We had about a 95% passenger drop. So we were carrying about 5% of passengers compared to the numbers that we were carrying last year at the same time. The numbers started to grow back slightly. We've been uplifting service provision as we've been able to, based on our drivers and conductors coming back into the business. So we've had drivers and conductors self-isolating. They've been coming back into the business and being retrained and going through their medicals. We've been able to build that up, but because of the delay that we've had with training and the postponement and the much slower progress that we're making now due to having to have those bubbles, we can't just flick the switch, unfortunately, and put the train services back to the full timetable that we had pre-COVID. So we've been building it back up gradually. So you can see there in May, we're back to 1,766 services. And then in July, we had another uplift to 1,928, September again, and into December. Patronage has grown back. It's still been at quite low levels. I think it's fair to say, sort of at 20 or 30% compared to similar weeks last year. We have had a few highs over the just before Christmas, and particularly Liverpool, which of course was in Tier 2. So there was a couple of weekends around just before Christmas where travel into Liverpool was about 50% of the same as it was at the same rate as it was last year. But it's as we moved into this this third lockdown period, I think it's fair to say numbers are dropping again, and we're also looking at the impact in terms of what we need to do to potentially reduce services again. So a little bit about detail about the resourcing challenges that we have. There's a couple of complicated looking graphs here, but it's just sort of mainly to emphasise, how many people that we had sort of out of our business. So the top graph emphasises the from the summer period through to the late autumn period, mid-November. So as you can see, the shielded and vulnerable colleagues, that's the grey line there, that reduced quite significantly as we went through the autumn period, and then it stabilised, and then it went up again as we went into November when we had the second lockdown. And the amount of self-isolations grew as we went through autumn as well. That's due to increased testing and self-isolations, either because a colleague has tested positive, or because they live in a household of someone who has, or because they're shielding because they're in a vulnerable category. And as you can see on the bottom graph here, this is the numbers that we have for drivers and conductors. So again, we're reducing number throughout the spring and summer period, and then we had the peak, in the second lockdown that you can see there towards in November. and then it's risen again as we go into the new year, what with the third lockdown. But the most important thing that we aspire to do throughout this period is to provide a service that our customers can rely on. So I've got a couple of graphs to share with you here. The blue bar that you can see there, that's the percentage of trains arriving on time. So how it works, the train is measured at each strategic station along the route, and then we take an average. So if in terms of arriving on time, i.e. to the minute, these are the service groups which run through Chorley itself. So and this has been measured on the last railway period. So railway period that runs in 4-week periods. So this is the last one that we have data for, which runs from the 15th of November through to the 12th of December. So Hazel Grove to Blackpool North service group, you can see 75% there. The Manchester Airport to Blackpool North service, 76% services on time, and the Manchester to Preston stopping service, 73%. And then the T3 there, that's the amount of services running or operating within 3 minutes of the allocated time. And again, that's measured at strategic stations along the route. So that's well into the 90s for all 3 service groups. And then the time to 15, amount of percentage of trains running within 15 minutes of the allocated time, just below 100%. And the yellow bar there, which is barely visible, the amount of cancellations that we've had during this period. So 0.5% for the Hazel Grove to Blackpool North service, 1.5% for the Blackpool North to Airport service, and 0.15 for the Manchester to Preston service group. So cancellations have been very, very low throughout the whole sort of the COVID period. You know, and that is just a snapshot of what we've been seeing. But you know, resonating back through periods right the way back through to March, the service has been very reliable. There's been a lot of investment, which probably you've been seeing if you've been out and about on the network. So looking all the way back until right the way back to February 2018, we had the electrification of the Bolton corridor, which runs through Chorley. So from Exton Junction, where the line just south of Preston, where it leaves the West Coast Main Line, right the way through to Salford Crescent, it's been electrified. The whole line's been re-engineered. Track's been relaid. Before there's a 75 mile an hour top speed, that's now up to 100 mile an hour in places. And we started introducing our 4-car electric trains. So that's a class 319 train there in the bottom left hand corner. And starting sort of towards the end of 2018, or sorry, the end of 2018 into 2019, we introduced our brand new 6-car electric trains. There's a picture of one there in the centre of the picture, and just to give you some idea of the capacity improvements that I've made. There's a picture of Chorley Station in the top right hand corner. That's a class 156 train there. That's got a capacity of 224, so 138 seats. When we introduced the class 319 trains, that's the train at the bottom left hand corner, those have got a capacity of 391 and 286 seats. And the class 331 there, we're operating those pretty much in entirety in 6-car formation, so 2 sets coupled together on the Blackpool to Hazel Grove and Blackpool to Manchester Airport routes. They've got a capacity of 690, 408 seats. So it's been a massive improvement in capacity of what we've seen on the Bolton Chorley corridor over the last few years. There's also been a lot of work on stations. We've seen a refurbished waiting room at Chorley Station, and all the stations along the route have seen new seating, shelters, and customer information screens, real-time information. A little bit about, I think it's worth raising some of the infrastructure challenges which we face in the northwest, because you know it is a congested network, and this map here highlights it. I'm sorry about the quality. If you look at the top of the picture, there's a yellow line there which emphasises the Bolton Chorley corridor. So that's the yellow line there. I'm not sure whether you can see where I'm pointing my cursor, but it's there. So that's running at about between 60 and 70% of capacity, which on its own is not, is not a risk. But where you have the very congested sections in central Manchester, you can see the pink and the red colours there and around central Manchester. That shows you capacity which is around 100% utilised. So we're very, very constrained in what we can do in terms of timetable amendments and flexibility to do things. Although on the corridor itself, we have basically if a train misses its slot at Salford Crescent, there will be an impact delay because it's missed its slot through into central Manchester. And on the Castlefield corridor in particular, which is a two-track section of railway between Deansgate and Manchester Piccadilly, there was some improvements which were due to take place there over the last few years, including rebuild of Oxford Road Station and 2 additional platforms at Piccadilly. Those have not yet been delivered. So there's an additional risk which comes through running through that section of railway, which is very congested. You can see that's picked up in the pink line there. So I hope that graph makes some sense to you. It is complex, but I thought it was worth putting that in there just to show you how constrained the operating environment is on the railway in the northwest. A little bit about rolling stock. I've touched on this already a little bit. 43 brand new Class 331s have now been delivered and entered service. That's the full fleet that we're getting, and we run the 3-car ones coupled up to 6-car formations on the line through Chorley. They've got really good level of specification, which have never been seen before. On routes like that in the northwest. So they've got air conditioning, they've got plug sockets, table seating, a lot of table seating, onboard information screens. They've got very, very high standard specification, and they're very good environmentally as well in terms of their output. The performance is very good of them as well. In terms of the units that we're keeping, so the Class 156 trains that I showed you a picture of earlier, which run on the Preston to Ormskirk line, which of course runs through the west side of the borough of Chorley. Those have all now been refurbished, which is great news. So they've had new seating, new seating cushions and covers, and onboard enhancements such as the disabled toilet portal that's now been installed into all of them. And onboard displays as well to emphasise the next station calling point, which is very important for the latest passenger reduced mobility regulations. And these are all going through a digital enhancement process as well to be equipped with either plug sockets or USB sockets. There's a picture of one there. The Pacer fleet, which is a fleet of trains that you may remember. The last of those retired last November. There's a picture of one in the bottom left-hand corner in a scrap yard, which is joyful or sad depending on your disposition towards them. But all the Pacers have now been retired from passenger service. And Newton Heath Depot, we have a new shed which is being built there for our brand new diesel trains. That's due to open for service. It's in testing at the moment, due to open later on this month, which is really great news, which gives us a bit more space at Newton Heath and allows us to maintain the trains, the brand new trains, in a special facility which has been built just for them, which should help with our reliability and the performance of the trains. So just to conclude, a little bit about a customer in terms of what we've been doing there. We have smart card facilities now. We've started doing revenue protection on those. It's really important to and the second point there is is an associated point as well. We've been running a campaign for people that do have the flexible, also the season tickets, the smart card. Or they have it on their mobiles, because we need to make sure that people are paying their fare, because the railways is using up a tremendous amount of subsidy during the COVID period. So we put out some advertisements there, to remind people, that please do charge your battery when you're on a mobile ticket. You know, remember to have enough credit on your smart card, and you know, please do buy your tickets before boarding the train. We've got a new mobility scooter scheme. Now that our trains have, all of our new trains have entered service, and our existing fleet has been refurbished. We've been previously we've only been able to convey smaller folding scooters, but now we can convey slightly bigger ones. We've started a permit scheme. So there's a special booklet for this on our website where people can sign in, and all we ask for them to do is to fill out a form and confirm what sort of scooter that they've got, just to make sure that it's compatible and we can fit it on board our trains, and then we can issue a permit, and then the scooter can be used at any of the stations. There's a map there of the line running through Chorley of the stations of which are accessible for scooters. And also flexible season tickets. That's a really important initiative. We know that people's travel patterns are going to change once the COVID pandemic comes to an end. So this is a new product, which is it's a book of 10 tickets. The customer pays for 9, and then they can use this on any journey over a 3-month period. It's a flexible ticket as well, which can be used, smart card, which can be used to touch in and touch out. We're trialling that on 3 routes at the moment, so between Bolton and Blackburn, between Harrogate and Leeds, and Skipton to Leeds. And providing that's successful, we'll be rolling that out on other routes as well over the course of this year. But it's a really important product, you know, to respond to what our customers say that they need, and you know, what they're going to require over the coming year. So I think that draws the presentation to a close, and I'm happy to accept any questions. Thank you.
Fab, thanks very much. That was really interesting. We've got June. She's got a question.
You've gone all echoey, Kim.
I know, why is that?
What's happened? It's weird. Anyway, I'm sure people know what my comment's going to be. I'm councillor for Adlington area. We are in the lucky position of having a train station. Unfortunately, we don't get the train service that we need in the village. We had 18 months of upheaval with electrification. We were promised we'd get an improved service, and it's not happened. This even before COVID came along. We're a commuter town now, Adlington, a commuter village. People commute both ways, to Preston and to Manchester, but it's a very, very limited service. And there are a lot of people who want to use the service. We have so many trains that pass through the village. I mean, I watch the trains go past my house. We live by the line, but we get so few that actually stop. And the situation got worse when Buckshaw opened, unfortunately, because Buckshaw's gain was Adlington's loss, and it really doesn't seem fair. It's that. And the other thing I've noticed, that Adlington isn't one of the scooter-friendly stations. So are there any plans to update and make Peep Station more user-friendly? Because actually you could benefit on short trips, and if we had trains that stopped, because the lower end of the village that we were speaking about earlier with Dial-A-Ride and that are more accessible to a lot of the village and the older people who would use the train into Chorley if they could, if one way had them that stopped. Sorry, there's a vast resource of people there that would use the train. I know they would.
Do you want to reply to that? Or?
Yeah, I can do. I think there's 2 elements to your question there, really, in terms of in terms of what you're asking. Thanks for the question. The first element concerns in terms of what the service would be usually. So in our contract, it's for 1 train an hour during off-peak periods and 2 trains an hour during peak periods. In terms of providing more than that, there would need to be a business case that would need to take place, to be able to adjust that. But also there's the physical aspect with the timetable as well, and that leads into the second point regarding the service that we're providing now at Adlington, which is a 2-hourly service, and that's because the Preston to Manchester Victoria service is currently operating on a 2-hourly basis. We would, if it was possible, we would potentially be able to call the Hazel Grove or the airport services there to retain one train an hour. But because the network is so constrained, in terms of the, as I hope I demonstrated in that graph to you, we can't insert the calls into either of those service groups, because if they miss their slot through Salford Crescent and then onwards and then through Castlefield, and then, as I said, one goes to Hazel Grove, one goes to the airport. There's just not the flexibility to be able to do that. So there's 2 elements there. One is the service provision that there was pre-COVID, that there would be now if COVID wasn't around. The other element is is the service provision that we have now.
Can I come back? We used to have a service to Manchester Airport. A lot of people used it in Adlington if they were going on holiday. They actually went to the train station, got the bus and went on holiday, and that was withdrawn well before COVID, well before anything. And as I say, we were promised that things would improve after electrification. They did look at getting more trains to stop it in the village, and it hasn't happened. And the excuse given was because, the trains have to stop at Buckshaw now. So, well, as I say, their game was our loss, definitely. But we have a lot of people who commute. They will go to Blackrod to get the train. So instead of getting them off the road, they'll actually drive to Blackrod if they're going to Manchester and get on the train there. And I know they do that. But so it's not providing the service in the village.
Yeah, I do appreciate your point there. I mean, it's very difficult because, as I said, those the trains that we operate, they have to meet their timing points, both at Exton Junction, south of Preston, and also at Salford Crescent. Okay. And it's tremendously difficult for us to do anything whilst the network is as full as it is.
No, thank you for that. We'll go on to the next one, Mark Clifford.
Thanks, Kim. Do you have the figures? I'm going to come from an environmental standpoint here. Is the whole fleet now that's running through the Chorley area fully electric? Are there any diesels still going through? And what has been the improvement on emissions? Obviously, if you got rid of the Pacers, which were very old technology, do you have the carbon emission figures at all? Because obviously you then got to look at electricity generation for the electric trains. I'm just wondering, do you have those figures this evening?
I don't have the figures to hand. To answer the first part of your question, all of the trains that we operate during this current COVID period through the Chorley corridor are diagrammed to be electric trains. So that doesn't mean that once in a blue moon a diesel might turn up because we've had to do a set swap or something like that. But every train that operates through there now is scheduled to be an electric train. In normal times, say pre-COVID, there was one train a day, which was I think it was the 5:30 off the airport, which runs to Barrow and Furness. So that's the train that usually runs via Wigan North Western. But during that one train, it runs up the Bolton corridor to provide the additional service. That's scheduled to be a diesel train. During the current period, they're all scheduled. They're all diagrammed to be electric trains.
Would it be possible to actually supply the figures to Chorley in terms of the expected carbon emissions really from your fleet? It would be just useful to know.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to break it down by district, but I could give you a high level figure. So yeah, I'll take that away.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Julia?
Yeah, thank you. I've got a couple of questions, but at first, just like to put on record, thanks for maintaining a fantastic service between during this difficult time. I've regularly been using it for care and responsibilities, having to travel from Chorley to Preston, and it's been remarkable and just secure, safe, and reliable, which is just all you could ask for. I noticed you're quite reticent really about sort of the future. You're saying we can't do much because of the constraints of the congested network, but surely with obviously the past few months, the ridership hasn't been the same, even though you have kept going with your regular routes. Do you not think that there's going to be some seismic changes really about travellers using trains, in that there's sort of work-life balance and the introduction of more flexible working as a consequence of COVID restrictions is going to have some impact on your service and gives you an opportunity to be looking at new ways of thinking, new routes, just more flexibility really. I mean, Saturdays might end up being a busier weekday than Mondays, with the changes that are coming about. And I guess you have to cost it, and unfortunately the evidence you had as far as numbers of passengers has just disappeared overnight really, because you can't really say we can't assume that we're just going to go back to as things were. The number of commuters that are no longer going into offices in Manchester permanently because those offices are just not being rented out or don't exist anymore, and they've now adopted so much home working. And some of this is a good thing. And I just think there's going to be more scope, less people going on holiday. So I know Manchester Airport can't be subscribed that much at the moment, and that's a really valuable route for me too. I get off at Heel Green regularly when I used to, but just can't anymore. So yeah, things have changed. People are doing different things, and you've got things right as far as the cleanliness, the security, the regularity, the reliability. I just would love to hear you saying it's something sort of more innovative really about the future of travel. The last thing I want to ask about is cycling and the Chorley station. And it's great that Northern Rail still provide a facility where you can hop on a train with your bike. You don't have to book. And there's a limitation, I think, of a couple of bicycles on each trip, but it's there and they can be made secure, and that's a really good facility. But actually storage of the bicycles at Chorley is a bit not reliable. We've got a great new shelter, we've got the CCTV, but unfortunately cycle theft is quite common. And I don't know if you're aware that Chorley's got quite a big cycling community, a growing cycling community, which Chorley was used as the base for the Commonwealth mountain biking course. In fact, we've had the World Triathlon track in Chorley as well. And I just wondered if there was going to be some investment for secure cycling storage that you could just lock up, because unfortunately I've been a victim of having one wheel pinched and you're not going anywhere for a while with being parked up at the station, despite it being under secure conditions. The theft's still happening. So I think people are reluctant really to store, and the facility you've got at Preston is amazing, and also Oxford Road, and it just could do with that investment at Chorley. So I'll finish. Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you for the questions. I mean, the first point, I think you're right. travel patterns, have changed to an extent. And that's one of the reasons why we're launching the flexible season ticket. In terms of that, being a product which people can buy and then use over a long period of time, and provides a saving as well. With regards to wider changes, we will provide the service, which our clients, at the Department for Transport and the Transport for the North ask us to provide. I'm sure that there is discussions which are taking place, in terms of what that might be. But for the time being, we will provide the service, that's in our contract. And that that we can deliver safely and reliably with the resources that we have. And to capture your last point, I think cycling, it's a growing. More people are doing it, which is great. There is sometimes funding pots of money for cycling, so I'll certainly register your aspirations there. I'm not aware of any which are available at the moment, but I'll certainly take those points that you've raised away, and bear that in mind, if and when funding becomes available in future.
Thank you.
Could I just come back in just quickly on the changes to travel as far as the network? I don't know whether are you aware of any noise around aspirations for both from Chorley, South Ribble and West Lancashire in their requirement for reopening of stations and development of new stations like Coppell, Midge Hall, and one up in West Lancs as well, and obviously quite a few stations coming out of Preston. Is Northern Rail involved in any part of that process, or sort of doing feasibility studies, business cases for, because obviously you'd be able to give some input. I don't know. Are you aware of that at all?
Yes, we're certainly very aware of it. I mean, it's in terms of the way it works with a news station, because obviously, previously, the business, the rail franchise business is a time limited period, usually sort of 5 to 7 years. So in terms of new stations, that's generally taken forward by a promoter, which is usually the local authority. Which in this case would be with Lancashire County Council. So we're very heavily involved as a stakeholder for the work that's going on at Cotton Parkway, which is a station between Solwick and Preston, and there's also work which is ongoing as well for Midge Hall as well. Although on a smaller scale, so we actively take part in these studies. We feed into them, we provide data and expertise, and it is happening in a number of areas in Lancashire at the current time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Do you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to talk about something pre-COVID. I regularly used to catch trains pre-COVID to London, and the journey between Chorley and Manchester was as long, if not sometimes longer, than the journey to London from Manchester to Euston. And I just wondered, having looked at that map that you showed us, that was very, very interesting, which is the worst junction that we could lobby about? Because it's in our interest to do something about it. I mean, Salford Crescent's a nightmare, but I know it's not the only one in that section. My father used to talk about many years ago during the war when Manchester was encircled by a railway line, but the railway lines were closed, and you could go right the way around. Is that the real issue? I mean, if we're going to lobby about something, let's make it worthwhile, because it hopefully after COVID, there will be more movement again.
Yeah, I don't have I wouldn't be possible for me to tell you which is the which is the worst one sort of offhand, but wherever you have a flat junction, and by a flat junction I mean pairs of lines crossing, and vast numbers of trains, there will always be conflict, and you get that at even on Exton Junction, as I said, where the Bolton and the Chorley line leaves the West Coast Main Line. And significantly in central Manchester. I mean, some of those areas, Castlefield Junction, for example, which is just to the west of Deansgate Station, that would be, in an ideal world, that would be a great location for a flyover or fly under. But, there's a number of constraints to that because it's in a conservation area and you've got the Metrolink line that's going over the top of it.
Which was a railway line, of course.
Of course, yeah, that was the old line to Altrincham and part of the Midland Railway, back in the day. So, often with the railway, you need to have a multifaceted intervention. One intervention on its own will not necessarily cure all the ills. And you may need to have a number of interventions in different places. To unlock more capacity and to solve the constraints. So, and there's various task force which are being undergoing now. Looking at those and looking at the improvements that are needed to address them.
Thank you. So we need to lobby on all of them.
Effectively, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any further questions? Alison?
Hello, Principal Planning Officer. I just wanted to know, we had a presentation from a county councillor elected member from the county that covered bus services and briefly train services, and they said that they were consulted by your timetables, that you consulted them. Is there any opportunity that you could consult us on your timetabling when it changes or if you're expanding on it?
Well, it's again it's there's a pre-COVID element here and there's a post-COVID element. I mean, over the last few months, we haven't been consulting because we've had to sort of respond almost on a weekly or monthly basis, to changes that are happening. There hasn't been time to do that. In terms of a wider consultation, that does generally go through the county. So the structure for that is that the districts, i.e. Chorley and other districts in Lancashire, will feed in through Lancashire County Council and the officer there. In terms of the future, policy for that, that's probably a wider question for potentially Transport for the North, in terms of the way that's done. But at the moment, immediate consultations is with Lancashire County Council. So I would urge you, if you have any comments, to put that through Lancashire County Council.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much.
Can I add, if there's no way to, if it's all to be put through the county council for consultation, but when you've actually made the decisions, so I think I wrote to you earlier last year about Adlington, and I think you'd already made that decision at the end of July when the timetable was coming in the middle of September. Is there no way of just letting people like Chorley Council know that this is happening, even if you don't consult with the district councils, or do you rely upon the county council to communicate with people?
It should be done through the county council, but I'm more than happy to add Chorley Council officers to my mailing list, and you're more than happy to for me to send those to you.
I think that'd be dead useful.
Yeah,
thank you.
That would be very useful. Thank you.
Can I you have consulted with parish and town councils in the past, because we've had the conversation about trains that stop and different things, and pre-COVID. So it has, and actually consulting through county it's too remote, because, and it takes a longer time, because then they would write to us, and hopefully they'd write to us eventually, And by the time we can make a response, it's gone. And as Kim said, we don't know about it. We don't know about the results. So I think it would be more beneficial if you made it slightly more, even if it was only Chorley, it would be more local.
Yeah, we are actually looking at different ways of consulting at the moment, and it's something which is ongoing. As I said, I don't want to make you any guarantees in terms of other train operating companies in the UK, for example. They do sort of wider public type consultations. We are looking to see what we can do, to bring these sort of things to a wider audience. And
but it is a lot easier now when you can do things online.
Yeah, and that's part of it, and that's part of it as well. So as I said, we are looking at it. I don't want to make you any promises now, because as I said, it's a very fast moving environment that we're working in. But there could be some changes coming, with regards to consultations, over the coming month or year.
Thank you.
No worries. Oh, that's great. Super. Any further comments or questions or anything? Can't see anybody's virtual hand up. No, no worries. No, that was really interesting. Thank you very much. And so we've got your contact details and everything. So if there's, I'm sure there's anything else that crops up, we'll get in touch with you. And thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for listening. And it was nice to meet you all.
Yes, no, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Everyone, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Right, we'll go on to, let's just find the next one. Item, so are we happy to note the report, from Northern Rail? Yep, okay. So we'll go on to item.
Yes, Chair.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Item 5, an update from Alison on the Greater Manchester Combined Authority consultation, doing buses differently.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the GMCA are consulting to the end of January on the proposed franchising scheme in light of findings of a COVID impact report that they decided to prepare with consultants in June last year. Before they make the final decision whether they're going to go down the franchising route. The Greater Manchester's ambition for an integrated public transport system has already been started. It was launched 18 months ago, our network, and they have set in place their vision for public transport to 2029, extending to 2040. They want to keep Manchester moving. They want to improve, have an integrated public transport system, which is easy, accessible. They've indicated that 75% of public transport journeys made in Greater Manchester before and during the pandemic are by bus. So they are targeting areas where there are poorer and more vulnerable communities, and they need to provide critical links to jobs and essential services. As we've heard from Stagecoach last month, all services and particularly in Greater Manchester, are run through the Deregulation Act, and they're run by commercial bus companies who decide the routes, timetables, fares and standards. And then when a bus company decides that they don't want to run the service, it reverts back to the public sector to hopefully fill the gap. Greater Manchester's current bus services, fares and ticketing are very complex. They have more than 150 types of tickets. There's no single brand. The bus companies decide which routes to run based on commercial and viable reasons. Customer standards varies, and they have difficult to plan a network. So the Greater Manchester authorities want to bring forward franchising so they can bring everything under control, and they can invest in the bus networks, and the bus operators will be contracted to run the services. So the proposed franchising scheme would cover the whole of the Greater Manchester area. They would reflect the local services being run in that area, and the franchising wouldn't cover dedicated school services though. It would be introduced in 3 phases over 3 subsections, sub-areas, and they've already identified that they're going to have to provide a bit more infrastructure, such as depots, to increase the level of buses and things that they need to provide. So they looked at COVID. Obviously, it's had a severe impact. I mean, they've been saved by government subsidy, but they looked at 4 scenarios going forward, looking at how those are all characterized by different social and economic circumstances, and looked at different outcomes in terms of bus patronage. And under all the scenarios that were provided, they still think the best option is to continue with the franchising. And they have got the funding available to pay for the transition to franchising. Now that basically adds up to sort of 135 million. They realise that COVID has been very harmful to their economy and the health, but also it's had some benefits. There's lower traffic, cleaner air, and obviously people are able to embrace where there are opportunities for flexible working, but they still want to show that when the support comes in for the recovery, that they are tackling climate change, improving air quality, tackling social inclusion, and helping to deliver the housing employment growth. It's quite interesting that they say that a third of households in Greater Manchester do not have a car, so they are really targeting communities that need that public transport. They've looked at whether, you know, franchising is the best option, but they realise that franchising needs to come forward, because even before COVID, there was a decline in bus services, and particularly a decline in people using that. Therefore, they have the financial responsibilities and risks to this public sector, but they still think that the difficult choices that they've got to make will improve the facilities. So as I've explained, they've already got the funding for that, and they're aware that once bus revenues are not subsidised by government, and if there are lower forecasts in who is using that, they will still have to provide further mitigation and funding, and that may lead to sort of making reductions to the network. But even after all that they've looked at, they certainly think franchising is the best way, and they're hoping to proceed on that. There are implications for Chorley. Obviously, we have quite a few bus routes, and at paragraph 29, I've indicated the routes that go through across the Greater Manchester boundary. And obviously, these are really important to residents of Chorley to reach destinations within Greater Manchester. It's proposed that these cross-boundary services are run from within Greater Manchester only have a relatively short running beyond the boundary would be part of the proposed franchising scheme. Those that are mainly a portion outside Greater Manchester could be run with the cooperation of the neighbouring authority. So any other services would also have to have a permit to run on the franchising sort of routes and the franchising area. Some aspects of the cross-boundary services might need to change in order to comply with some of the tests that they're putting forward, such as where the route is or where you board. So it might mean that some bus points or bus stops are changed. But again, they would maintain these cross-boundary services, working appropriately with neighbouring authorities, and also to put in place new ticketing arrangements to encourage cross-boundary travel. We have given a response. We responded last year, and we're responding again, a very similar response, just to say that we obviously think it's very important, and we've shown that at Appendix 1, that we should encourage the use of sustainable modes of transport, and that improving the bus network will mean that more people will use it and reduce car travel, but it also needs to have a reduction on the impacts of climate change. We are supporting the proposed franchising scheme and consider it is one of the best options, but must make sure that there's no negative impact on existing cross-boundary bus services running to Chorley. So that's going to go before the end of the month, that response. just finally, we did try to get the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, their Transport for Manchester section, to come and talk to us about franchising and how it'll work, but they declined at this stage. Thank you.
Fab, thank you, Alison. Are there any comments or questions or anything that people would like to ask? Yvonne?
Yeah, just a quick one before I have to go, Alison, to another meeting. Apologies.
That's right.
Is there any funding from the strategic transport plan for transport for the north for the franchising?
I'm not. I would have to look into that and come back to you. There are elements of funding. They have a mayor's fund. I can go back through the documents and have a look, and if I can't find it, I will email and let you know.
Okay, that's great. I have another. The other question is that it's moving forward with buses. I'm just worried that a lot of people are thinking twice about going on buses at the moment, and obviously it's not going to change. It's not going to, COVID isn't going to go away within the next year or so. So I'm just thinking, wherever the money's coming from, though, people will be a little bit concerned, and I'm just worried about delivery. To be fair, delivery on what they agree to.
I mean, at the moment, they've got a transitional fund, which is huge, and they've got emergency funding that's coming from the mayor's fund, from the government, and also from fuel duty funding. And they feel fairly confident about that. And then they also have different ways of other funding that they can target from. Obviously, that's something we're going to have to watch. I don't think this is going to come in straight away. I think it's going to take at least over 3 or 4 years to come through. But we will have to watch that and just see where their funding comes from.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Alison. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions or anything? Julia?
Yeah, I just want to welcome everything Alison's been talking about. Any collaboration with moving forward with the franchises, I think, I believe is beneficial for Chorley and other districts, and it's just good to see forward thinking and planning and true transparent and business plans being put together, and obviously joined up also with their cycling strategy, and sort of embracing safer streets and looking at the breathing new life into the public realm, just trying to just provide multimodal opportunities of transport for the Greater Manchester population, and that's something to be applauded. And I don't class us as a poor relation. I just wish we were better friends, in that we are sharing good practice and sort of this forward thinking. It'd be really useful to get people around the table agreeing that that we, despite our position, as part of a Lancashire Transport Authority, we're just not getting the right kind of money back for our we're just not getting it. We're just not getting the benefit of being in this relationship. But at least we can shame them and show them the way they should be operating. And it's a shame that the Greater Lancashire Transport Plan's been put on one side, really, because of the changes at COVID, and they're having to have a drastic rethink about it. Whereas I think the Greater Manchester plan is obviously a lot more robust, and we'll need to watch this space. But I think if we can cause a bit of trouble around it, sort of, the fact that engaging with other authorities, we will learn a lot and help us provide the sort of facilities that Chorley residents deserve as well. Thanks.
Definitely. Here. Any further comments or anything? I know a couple of people have left because they've had to go to another meeting. No.
Just mention something of interest that I discovered today about bus data. The government have set up the bus open data service. It's gone live, and the sort of information about bus usage is going to be available. Because this has been a problem in the past. That sort of we didn't know about the viability of some of the bus services put out by some of the operators, but now they're having to, particularly people like Stagecoach will and other larger bus companies will have to participate in it, and that data should be available soon, which is really, really useful for helping us shape stuff as well, knowing what's viable and what's not.
That'd be a massive step forward, definitely. Yeah, massive. Yeah. Brilliant. So thank you for that, Alison. So are we okay to note the report? Yeah. Okay. So we'll go on to item 6, date of the next meeting. Do you want to give an update on that, Alison or Matthew? Or sure.
I don't think we've come to a conclusion on the date yet, have we, Matthew?
I don't think so, not yet.
We realise it's probably going to have to be mid-February to allow members to look at the draft recommendations and to have a discussion. And then, because it has to go, we're hoping it will go to the 21st of March exec cabinet. So there needs to be a couple of weeks while we turn over the report. I think it's the 26th of March. Apologies.
Brilliant. And then I think we're hoping to get perhaps one evening in between where we can have a chat with the MP and with Chris Sinnott as well, just to try and ask some questions of them and see Chorley Council's view on things, and also obviously from government perspective with our MP as well. So hopefully we can squeeze that in as an add-on. But I'm sure we'll be in touch, won't we, when we've got the dates and stuff sorted? And
definitely.
Yeah. But then I think we're aiming for the mid-February meeting to be the last one, aren't we? And then it'll go to cabinet. Julia, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, just briefly, I'd just really welcome the opportunity to collaborate a bit more with other people on this committee. Obviously, time restraints means we don't really chat a lot or really discuss, go into any greater depth some of these areas. I just wondered if you'd be accessible. Would you allow us to set up some like Yammer group or something where we could pursue, bits of information that just haven't covered really that would help?
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, you can set that up if you like, and yeah, why not?
Thank
Definitely, because it's a massive topic, isn't it? And there's loads of different things that and it's and I'm sure when we sort of thrash out the final recommendations and things, it's there'll be different things that people want to put forward. Ruth.
Hi, yeah, I was just going to say, if anybody does come up with anything that they want us to share on ITK and ITB, we're more than happy to share that, because I know that there is this select group at the moment, but a lot of members are interested in this type of issue. So if there are things that come up that you want us to promote more widely with members, then, please feel we have a mailbox set up in the know at chorley.gov.uk, or send it to anybody in Democratic Services and we'll send it out,
Thank you. Julia? Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously it might go out to consultation afterwards, but we've sort of been working with different agencies and companies rather than the general public, and they're the people that have been impacted by obviously COVID, the greatest, and their modes of transport or aspirations might completely change now, and in some ways we do need to keep close to the grassroots, people who use the services. And I just wondered if that's a gap really in the strategy we've had, really, covering a lot of the areas, but we could do with some feedback, couldn't we, from the general public?
I know Matthew has written to all the parish council, and there was some stuff that's supposed to have gone out on the council's social media, but I don't know if Alison or Matthew want to feedback on that. I don't know if it has gone out or not. I know the stuff to the parish councils has, but and we've had a few responses from the public, so I'm sure we can pull them together. Do you want to update on that, Alison? Or
yes, I don't think we've had very many. No more than about 5, and not much information within that. We can always put something out again. We've also gone round to the parish councils through a liaison meeting, and again, I don't think we've had much or anything back from that either.
Because I know there was a draft social media post that Matthew put together. Did it go out on the council's social media?
It didn't in the end, no, but I can put something out hopefully starting next week.
I think that would be good. At least then we, like you say, because otherwise we, at least that we can, perhaps if we could get some of the comments back in between the next meeting, see if there's anything or any common themes that people are raising.
Okay.
That'd be great. Is there anything else that people want to raise or? Nope. Okay. So there's no urgent items as far as I'm aware, and thank you for your attendance. If we could stop the recording, thank you.